And then at the final, to bring us home, it is my big pleasure to welcome back to stage Katherine Hall, who's the Executive Director of ConCOVE Tuhura, for a session on legacy and ownership, and a reminder that the work does not end here. Welcome, Katherine.
I'm kind of doing that, but I'm also not. We're not done quite yet. We're not done quite yet. I am going to start with a whole host of thank yous. I'll ask you to hold your applause until I ask you to hau mai te pakipaki, because otherwise you will get sore hands. There's a lot of people to thank. First of all, I'd like to thank Marietta for guiding us over the last 2 days. We really appreciate your perspective as well and what you bring, and wish Te Uru Tangata all the best for the future. Then I'm going to get emotional. I'd like to thank the ConCOVE team. I swore I wouldn't do this, goddamn. Particularly those people who've left but have stayed really attached to us. Wayne Abel is in the room. You can leave, but you can't say goodbye. Nina Herriman and Dr. Kylie Taffard as well. So Kylie is actually actively working still in supporting a bystander project for us through her new role. And then the people in the room who have brought this all together. So if I could just ask the ConCOVE team, everybody to stand, that would be great. Eve, Sean, Louise, George, where are you? And Megan at the back, and Candice, and Anne-Marie, who couldn't be here because she's actually really unwell. So now we can clap. Big round of applause for the team. Thanks, guys. I'd also like to say that when you plan an event, you plan for contingencies, right? You plan for people being unwell, planes not arriving, tech not doing its thing, missing presentations. We didn't plan for a full venue evacuation, and we didn't lose anyone along the way, so thank you very much for staying committed over the last 2 days. I'd also like to pay tribute to the organisations that have supported our mahi. Sure, we paid them. But to be fair, there is a lot of passion out there in the wider sector to support our work. And I am going to mention some. I will miss some, but just know that we are thanking you from the bottom of our hearts for the support that you have given us. So in no particular order, Adaptation, who is Martin Grant, Gear Consulting, which is Sean, Skills Consulting, Josh there at the back of the room, Alan and Clark, Sean, Martin Jenkins, Think Place, Height PM, Tiria, Epic Learning, George Angus Consulting, and Axon Consulting. And there will be others. We do thank you from the bottom of our hearts. To the board, my thanks. Your support's really come into its own over the last year. From processing the news that we weren't to be continuing to understanding what our role now was and guiding us forward. So thank you. And to our advisory group members, we also thank you. You've grounded us with your community viewpoints and kept us centred on our why, and that's our priority groups and the reason why we were doing what we've been doing. Also want to acknowledge the growing community that sits behind ConCOVE. You'd never believe it, but people are still applying to be a member. We've got 1,270 people from across the sector who are subscribing to our updates. We had 250 3 years ago. They are practitioners, educators, industry leaders, and those curious about the future of vocational education. And alongside that, we've got 400 formal members actively shaping our work. Someone should really tell those who are still applying that we won't be here next year. And this week we've had 120 of you here in person. This is the biggest event we've run. I am impressed at your staying power. Perhaps it's the food that's on offer for lunch, I don't know. But we really appreciate you sticking with us to the end and contributing your perspectives, sharing challenges and helping us chart the way forward together. We do have a stakeholder engagement survey coming out in September, so we are still looking for feedback to provide back to the TEC on the effectiveness of the COVEs. we'd encourage you to complete it. We'd really value your participation in that. I am going to do a quick wrap-up. First thing I'd like to say is that we heard from 13 wahine and 12 tane over the last 2 days. Just like to pause for that gender balance to sink in. In fact, Pam Bell was the person who said to me, "Where are the women?" And I said, "Don't you worry, Pam, we've got that sorted." And what we heard was we have a vocational education crisis. We have an industry crisis and we have a system crisis. We're not matching supply and demand. We have to think about funding. Something must happen. There is violent agreement that what we are being left with in terms of investment in vocational education and training is dire. But somehow some skin in the game and lifting aspiration and capability of the employers to support training is necessary. Data is absolutely key. It's not risky business. We should keep diving into data more. We've truly valued all the qualitative data that's come through in a lot of our projects, but we need more quantitative. I mentioned yesterday that we will soon be able to announce a future home for construct trend and workforce journey indicators, and George's presentation may have alluded to one of those possibilities. I would like to thank and acknowledge the support of Greg Durkin, Vai Punavai, and Andrew at BCITO for putting their hands up to support. That is a decision that our board has to make, and we are going to work through that over the coming month. We're fortunate to have choice, I guess, and we're thrilled that the ultimate home will have continued investment, so please stay tuned for that little announcement. On workforce journey indicators, I really would encourage you to use the tool. Try it, break it, let us know what you think over the next little while. I have heard from people in industry using the tool to support talent attraction activities. This is what we want it to be used for, or one of the things it can be, at least. And an organisation that's looking at a vocational education response within a large tender. So if tools like workforce journey indicators are being used to support industry making better decisions around vocational education and training and delivery of that in real life, then fantastic. We will take that. We learned more about degree-level apprenticeships and the relevant study options that they offer on-job and on-point. It reiterated the need, I think, for a collective consciousness on considering how to fund and support the uptake of DLAs. But how good were the stats from architectural designers where 90% said it would be game-changing for them and 62% were prepared to take on an apprentice with a degree? Koru from Poitama gave us insights into 4 potential areas of opportunity for Māori. These learnings are really critical for those in education, designing for the current and future population and industry need. And then Shamabeel loves a graph equab. Quote of the day yesterday: "What could we do differently to marginalise our politicians?" I almost want to frame that and put it on my wall. But hold that thought as well till the very end. He talked about control. He talked about industry exerting control over short-term politics, a levy, industry-led governments. If it's your money, government can't tell you what to do with it. Politics is one of the biggest sources of risk. Prioritise the input of industry, and long-termism, we must call the shots. A stewardship function must be able to call the shots. And that was reiterated again with Barney's presentation today. Project Y was introduced to us, possibly the most powerful intergenerational opportunity to do some active reform in vocational education that I have seen. People will know how passionate I am about this project, but I feel especially proud that ConCOVE's been able to walk alongside and is supporting Project Y to come to life. Can't wait to see where that one goes. There's a lot of noise around vocational education and training and pathways into schools right now. Skills have done some excellent work with the Food and Fibre Cove. Michael Johnston has picked that up with the New Zealand initiative. We have done work. the opportunity really is now, have your say in the NCEA reform, and lean into your ISB for their future approach to this. AI is here. We've looked at personalising AI in assessment, so you don't have to. Much to learn from this project, and I really thank Carl for being very honest with the learnings, the failures, and the things that we need to be really cognizant of taking AI into the future. Pathways to SMEs, tradie to business owner, which is what we love to call it internally. Born from wanting to investigate what a Meister qualification might look like in New Zealand, but also the failure of current businesses. Recommendations around stackable micro-credentials towards a higher trade qualification. We need to tackle the professional development funding challenge in and around that, but that's something to bear in mind. And then some non-educational recommendations. And Eve's call to action, help us refine the recommendations, identify pilot opportunities and partner to implement that particular one. Before we go, if we can, that'd be great. Barney, we were all jealous, right? Be honest. Data matters, and lots of talk about the drag on productivity that some of the challenges that we see across in Australia and here in New Zealand provide. But even just the data that JSA provided around having a vet qualification benefiting Australia with a median annual income lift of 16k, about a third of those people who are exposed to vet quals go on to do a higher level qualification. Employability goes up 16%, reduction in income support by 40%, and people who don't complete a whole qualification still gain benefits over time over those that don't. So that's something to bear in mind too if we're thinking about qual design, micro-credentials, and the challenge that we have around non-completion. Should that be our focus, or should we be looking at other ways to celebrate the ongoing learning of that individual? In Barney's presentation, Skills England made another mention. Shamabil also talked about Skills England. Both of them talked about the Singapore model. One or two of them might have mentioned Ireland. These are all countries that we can learn from, and we should be learning from. Our panel on apprenticeship policy settings and the need for a national view. Perhaps it's a Jobs and Skills Commission. I am going to come back to that. And then a focus today on 3 toolkits and how we are supporting kaiako and training advisors in the sector, employers with a broad good practice tools, and pastoral care and needs-based support tools. All the toolkits are going to be white-labelled. By that I mean that anyone can pick them up, brand them, iterate them and develop them for their own purposes. And then finally, Eve highlighting the experiences that we've had leading a global project, the similarities and differences and the challenges across the 3 dimensions. It's certainly been an experience. Eve and I have had Wednesday afternoon therapy sessions over that one. But the privilege of leading a global project for UNESCO Univoc should not go unnoticed. I think that's credit to ConCOVE and the work that Eve's done. Finally, I want to pick up a message that Barney left us with after he reflected on his ministerial meetings yesterday. He said this morning, the government is looking for policy ideas. If the government is looking for policy ideas, then we need to give them policy ideas. So I just would like to know, show of hands in the room, a Jobs and Skills Australia type model here in New Zealand, is that something we should be advocating for? Put them up? Yeah. And maybe that's our turning point. Maybe that's our pivotal opportunity. ConCOVE's mahi may be wrapping up, but the work to reshape vocational education, to lift productivity, to empower learners, support employers, and strengthen industry now rests with all of us. We are leaving a legacy of data and information, and I'm calling on you again to disrupt. Let's take a step forward together to give the next generation, our workforce and employers a stronger future. Thank you very much.
And Katherine, to you, for holding the space and leading this kaupapa with evidence, with integrity, with expertise, and with, above all, heart. Thank you very much. So, Tefano, as we come to the close of this forum, I want to thank you all for being here. As Katherine said, it was lovely to see you all still in the room. And I think that goes to the quality of the work and the quality of the speakers and the amazing collaboration that we've had over the last 2 days. We've traversed through some powerful territory. Katherine mentioned all of those, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. I want to say, as we get to a point of saying haere rā to ConCOVE Tuhura, along with many other organisations in this room, actually, I've only got 3 words. Ngā mihi nui. You've pushed the boundaries, you've held the line on equity, and you've built tools that we can now carry forward. So with that, I want to invite everybody to just take a moment and make this very, very simple pledge. This kaupapa will not be left on the shelf. These insights, these resources, this momentum, we will embed this, we will champion it, and we will share it. And that we each take responsibility for carrying the work forward in our spheres of influence. So let that be known. So from my side, just a final invitation to you all to join us for lunch next door. And I wish you very safe travels to your communities, your spheres of influence. And with that, I will hand over to Phil Hokianga, who's the co-chair of ConCOVE, to lead us in a karakia. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnei anō, tātou. How I'd like to do this is for everyone to stand. And I'd like us to to sing a waiata together. Tū tera maina, tū tera maina iwi. Once this is finished, I'll then finish with a karakia. Here we go. Toru, wha. Tū tera maina iwi, tātou tātou e. Tū tera maina iwi, tātou tātou e. Whai a te marangatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, te atu taputahi, ke aputahira, tātou tātou e. Tūtou tātou e. Karakia whakamutunga, kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te ata whai tō tātou āriki ko iu karaiti. Ki te aroa o te atua me te whiwhinga ko taitanga. Ki te wairua tapu. Ake, ake, ake. Āmeni.